I did not. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start recording and we'll go over. Maybe I'll finish up with that at the end. All right. So cha. Let's talk about absolute value inequalities. We have a lot of them turned in. Okay. So these are the notes. And again, I was thinking I already made a video on this. I'll have to find it. I have this deja vu. So when you talk about absolute values, you always split it into two, right? You have the absolute value and then you split it into two. I have a work sample of that for you right here. You have to clear out the outside of the house. So this person subtracted 2 and then they divided the number in front and then they wrote it twice. You have a positive value and a negative value and you get 2 answers, okay? So when you do absolute value, you follow that, clear it out and then you look to see if it's equal to a negative. If it's equal to a negative number, if the absolute value is equal to a negative number, you have no solution. So there's your think stage. And then you write it twice. Well, this is almost the same thing. Okay, there's a little bit more thinking in that thinking part. And there's one extra detail with the split it into 2 parts. Okay, so I get that this can be very intimidating. And where'd it go? Oh, right here. Absolute value inequalities. I need to just keep this. But challenge yourselves. This is really teaching your brain to think about the learning, teaching your brain to think abstractly. That's really what this is about. This is not about keeping this for the rest of your life. Okay. This talks about absolute value definition, and this is exactly what we said. If it's equal to a negative number right here, you have no solution. That's it. You just think. Okay. For absolute value inequalities. So now we have an alligator mouth. We have a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to or something like that. You are going to clear out everything. You isolate the absolute value. So same thing, plus or minus and then divide. And then you're going to look to see what it is. If it's equal to 0, then you're going to have a set of something. Like it's going to be either, if it's less than 0, it's no solution. Like an absolute value cannot be less than 0. Absolutely not. If it's less than or equal to 0, then there's one solution for it. One solution will get there. And then if it's greater than or equal to 0, then it's all real numbers. Okay. And then if it's a negative, then you need to think about it. And the absolute value is less than or equal to, there's no solution. And if it's greater than or equal to, it's all real numbers. It's all solutions. Okay. Now I would not dedicate that to memory. You can think about it, but I would just use this chart. As a matter of fact, this chart is replicated on absolute value inequalities assignment 2. For absolute values inequalities assignment 2, you're going to take this chart and you're going to replicate it onto the assignment, and it's going to walk you through that in a guided notes format. So all you're going to do is, you're going to say like isolate the absolute value, and then tell me what happens if it's equal to 0. Like, what happens if it's 0? Well, if it's less than 0, then it's no solution. But if it's more than 0, then it's all real numbers. So see how you have to kind of use the chart. If this, then that. For this class, 99% of the time, it's going to be equal to a positive number. Okay. And when it's equal to a positive number, and remember equal to because it's an inequality, it's either greater than a positive number or less than a positive number. You are going to split it into 2 equations and write it with you're going to write it with inequality with a positive answer, and flip the inequality and write it with a negative answer. And did I put that in the notes? I put that in the unit 2 notes. So I'm going to go to the unit 2 notes real quick. So like, look at letter E right here. Okay. It's greater than a positive number. So they wrote it twice. They wrote it where everything is the same inequality to the positive number. Then they wrote it everything the same, and they flipped the sign. You see how the sign was flipped right here? So you're going to flip that sign, and that just died on me. Okay, this letter E is the example that most of all of your assignments are going to take. Like it's a positive number. So just write it twice and just flip the sign. Okay, same thing for number H. All right. And if you follow that rule, then you'll be good. Okay. Now let's see. There's these notes right here. Constraints unit 2 notes. Okay, this is going over kind of exactly what the chart said. For if the absolute value is less than B, then you're gonna have I'm sorry, this is 0. If it's 0, then you're gonna have these outcomes. I wouldn't even pay attention to this. This is really what it is. Easy things to remember. If it's 0 or negative number, think and use the chart. If you get absolute value is whatever to a negative number or 0, think and use the chart. If it's a positive number, which again, it's going to be a positive number 98% of the time for the class, I want you to split it into 2 parts, plus or minus the positive, negative, and flip the sign. There's less than, if it's the absolute value of a number is less than a number, it's going to be and value statement. It's going to graph this way most of the time. And if it's greater than, if its absolute value is greater than a number, then it's going to be or, and it's going to split this way most of the time. Okay. So either an and statement or an or statement when you shade, and it follows that pattern a lot. Okay. All right. I feel like I'm going to do an example for you guys real quick too. So let's go to, come on. Okay, so don't do these, but these are the problems right here. Okay, so maybe I'll do like this one. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see if I'm going to clear anything away. And in this case, I don't have to clear anything away because there's nothing out here and there's nothing out here. So I'm just going to write it twice. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a positive number right here. You see how this is positive? That was my thinking check. If this was a 0 or a negative number, I'm going to go back to my chart. But again, for the class, most of the time it's positive. So write it twice. We're going to write it twice. Okay. We are going to say 6 plus 9x is less than or equal to the positive value. And we're also going to say 6 plus 9x, flip the sign. Remember, flip the sign to the negative value. Okay, let me pause. Is everybody clear with that? Is everybody good? That's really the thing. There's only the one more step. You got to think. You do have to think, but it's really, same thing. Split into 2, and there's a positive and a negative value. So, if you were good with absolute value equations, then hopefully this is just one more little thing. Okay. All right. So PEMDAS or reverse PEMDAS, we're going to cancel this out, and that's going to be 9x and 18, and then divide by 9. And this is going to be x is less than or equal to 2. And then right here is the same thing. It's the same minus 6 divided by 9. This is going to be negative 30 now. Sorry, but that's a really bad 9. 9. And then divide by 9 and divide by 9. And x is more than or equal to negative 30 over 9. This is just 30 over 9, which is really 3 and like a third, right? So 3.33 or something negative. So let's graph. Boom. and then the two numbers is -30/9 and +2. And this is closed and closed. And this is my little check. This is less than, so it should be and, it should be and. It's that from 2, we go below. So x is everything less than or equal to 2, and x is everything greater than or equal to -30/9. So it did graph together. So this is, your and statement. And that's it. That's it. So, I think looking at it, it's very easy to be like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. But if you can just break it down into, just clear out the absolute value, and then think if it's 0 or negative. And then after that, just split it into 2 parts. Flip the sign right here. See how this sign is flipped around? That's it. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Laney's saying yes. Hey, Dylan.
No, this is the
Okay, no.
last one.
Okay. All right. And if you don't get it, it's not a big deal. This unit, we deal with it, but it's not too bad. What I really want to talk about is my favorite task, and that's the constraint task, okay? And so I'm going to go into this constraint task. There's 14 of these, if you complete 8, that's really good. If you complete 10, that's really good. Check your work on the key. Right here, this is what we're doing right here. Okay, and actually I copied this down. I copied this down to this right here. Okay, so absolute value. Does anybody remember graphing absolute value freshman year? Does anybody graph absolute value freshman year? This is one of my favorite graphs. So what does an absolute value function look like? Okay. Well, you can pick some numbers, like give me a number. Laney, Ethan, Isaiah, and Dylan Hardy, type in a number in the chat. Tell me what to put in to my XY value. 7, okay. 6. 4, can somebody give me a negative? 7, 6, 4, -2, thank you. Okay, all right, so if you take the absolute value of +7, what is the answer? Well, it's just +7, right? So that might be like up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Making me work here with a 7, right? And then 6 is just the same thing. The absolute value of +6 is also +6, right? And then 4 would be 4, right? And then same thing, the absolute value of 1 is 1. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. And then the absolute value of -2, if you take the absolute value of -2, what would it be equal to? It'd be equal to +2. And then that's right here, -2, +2. And then like if you have like -4, the absolute value is +4. And so you can pretty easily see a pattern. And the pattern is this V right here. Okay. And every single time you graph an absolute value, it's going to look like a V. That's it. And you guys, you see how it has a positive and negative on the Y? So that, when you guys plug in numbers, that's why it has this V split, because there's a positive and negative value. Okay. All right. So we're gonna start with that idea, and we're gonna go into Desmos.com. So everybody type in Desmos.com and go to Desmos.com. All right, I don't know how well you can split your screen and everything. But the way you do this is you put in the button above the return. So if you look at the return or the enter button on your Chromebook, there's a button right above it. And you'll see if you hit shift, it makes this bar. Okay. And so is everybody at Desmos.com? Let me ask. Is everybody good? If you're not there, let me know to slow down. So you guys can see this function is just what we did on paper. It's a V and it's, you know, 2 lines. You'll see it has a slope. Okay, and it's not like, I mean, you can't say the whole function has the same slope, like, you know, half the slope is the negative value, half of it's positive value. But you can measure the steepness of the V, and it's kind of like a slope. And then it has this point right here, the vertex. And this is really what you want to look at when you're talking about graphing. I really want to know where that you know where the vertex is. I want to know that you know where the vertex is. Okay, so what can we do to shift this? Well, what if we typed in +4 inside? So what number +4 is, you know, what would that equal to? And so you'll see that the vertex moved. Okay. And so when you put a number inside where you manipulate the number inside the absolute value bars, it's going to shift or translate the graph. All right. And so that's one way you can shift, you can do it. And the other thing you can do here, I'm going to leave as +4. The other thing you can do is you can have the absolute value of some function, and then you can add something after the absolute value like this. So notice how the +5 is outside of the absolute value. So it shifts it up, and notice the vertex. Okay, and then you can make predictions as a mathematician. What's going to happen if you subtract a number? So it shifted the vertex down. Okay, does everybody understand these 2 things right here? So there's one on the inside and there's one on the outside, and you'll see how they shift. So let's put it together now. Okay, let's put it together. Let's say that it was -4 +3, +4. Let's do +3. So you'll see that there's a shift horizontally in the vertex, and there's a shift vertically in the vertex, and those numbers come directly from the function equation. Okay, and I want you guys to see the relationship there. Now you can change the steepness too. This is a little different, but if you have a negative, it flips it, right? And if you have a 2, it makes it narrower. And if you have a fraction like a half, then it makes it wider. Okay, so this right here is the horizontal shift, and this right here is the vertical shift. All right. In the task, it's going to have you guys do that very thing right here. And so it says, what does the number inside the absolute value bars do to the graph? That's right here. That's like the y +5, the second one. Okay, tell me what that does. And, you know, make a prediction, and you can type it in to check your prediction, but make a prediction if you're given an equation. And we're going to go back, and next week, we're going to graph absolute value bars, but this is a great introduction to graphing these. Okay. All right.
Hey, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah.
Hey, are we gonna work on this today as well as that assignment?
The task is due Friday. So you can do it today or you can do it Friday. I'm giving you a preview. So when you get to the task,
Friday.
Yep. So when you get to the task, it's just a little bit easier. Okay.
Mr. Brooks, I was busy working on the decision, the digital decision SIP assignment.
Yeah.
I've been watching the videos. I'm still not done yet. I have yet to watch some other stuff from there and read some articles, and then I'll answer those questions. I've been watching a video on the Harvard, which drawn 10 students.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah, that's
cool.
for the digital footprints.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
remember that. That is the thing I think I'm supposed to mention the digital citizenship and stuff too.
Never
Um,
mind. Well, let's forget about that. Continue.
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're almost through this. So I've given you a little hint. Here's the Desmos right here, the link. And I want you to know the vocab vertex. I want you to know, what the number inside does. I want you to know what the number on the outside does. And I want you to use that knowledge to make a prediction if you were to see an equation. Okay, what would it look like? Okay, and then I want to talk about this topic right here. On the topic of the human body, we say that 98.6 is normal, but is everybody 98.6? Like what happens if you show up to school and they're taking your temperature for a COVID check and your temperature registers at 97.2 or 97.6? Or what if you're 99 point, like what if you're 99? Does that mean something's wrong with you? Does that mean that you're does that mean they should send you home? Okay, why is 98.6 normal, like not really true? Well, 98.6 is described to me as the average temperature, or kind of the ideal temperature. But who's average? What we really have is we have a healthy range. Okay, and that's what this is talking about. And by the way, this is coming from the website. So you're supposed to look through the website for everything. You're supposed to look through the website for everything. And so you have a range of healthy temperature. And if you go outside the range, then your body has to work extra hard to get back inside the range. And so when we say, yeah, the human body is 98.6, that's kind of a true statement, but it's also not a true statement. And the idea with using absolute value inequalities is that, and remember in our example, we graphed this range, like, this inside between 2 points. The idea with absolute value inequalities is we're using math to express what's happening in life when it's a range. Okay, so if you register at 98.2, you're not sick, right? You're not average, but what does average mean? And so I want you to know that, like, it's not always an equal sign when you're dealing with real life. Okay. And if you're in the healthy range, then you're okay. And I don't know if you guys remember biology, but there's this word homeostasis. And so I say there's extra bonus points if you use the word homeostasis or equilibrium. And so, math is the underlying foundation of science. Like the way you do science is you collect data and then you define the things that are happening in the world. And in this case, biology is the human body. So you define the things that are happening in the human body based on the data and the math that you have. That's why science. I mean, I love science. I got to physics in high school and it was all math. And like science was just, okay, experiments, and science was, okay, these vocabs and you had to memorize the parts of a cell. And that wasn't real science. I mean, now in school, we should do real science where it's like, okay, test a hypothesis, collect data. Is that what's going on based on the data? But that wasn't science when I was in high school. When I was in high school, it was just sit down, take notes. You got to know the definitions. And then we got to physics. I got to physics. And when I got to physics, all of a sudden it was math equations. I was like, oh my gosh, this is hard. Yeah. So, but hopefully that makes sense to you guys, where I'm trying to get you guys to go from things in life have an equal sign, and math is all about like, this number means this, or this is the right answer right here. But the right answer can be a range. And so why in life is the right answer a range? You know, there's a tolerance, or there's a solution set, there's, you know, workable answers, there's workable numbers that work, make it work. Right here, right, an absolute value inequality for gas mileage of the van. There's a hint right here. This is a video that shows you how to do it. I give you this picture, but this picture is not the entire thing. Again, you clicked on the link, and down here, this has the full picture, right? And so you do have to read this, and you have to use this in order to answer the bottom question. But you guys have to click on this website, and you know, there's a video up here for you too if you need it. But you have to use this information for the task, okay? And the goal with the task is to get you to think and get you to self-learn. Here's the vocab for it, and this is going into that number on the inside, the horizontal shift and the vertical shift, that type of thing, okay? Okay, any questions on the task?
No,
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks.
Okay, good. Okay. I like this task because it goes into a lot about like what the function looks like, both you know, graphically as a function, and then in the real life graphing. You can show it as a graph, but you can talk about why it graphs that way with the range. And then how do you describe the graph? What vocabulary do you use to describe the graph? And then here's, you know, the miles per gallon on a car is a range. You know, okay, so the government tells me there's 17 miles per gallon, but that's not really true. It's a range. You can get between this and that. And 17 is just this number that's in the middle. Okay. All right. So if you guys are good there, like I said, it's one of my favorite tasks. We'll do a follow-up next week and we'll talk about the answers. But if I give you the answers now, you don't get the learning. Was there something else? Okay, I did show you the work sample. Keep giving me work samples. When you guys turn in work, you guys need to show me how you set up a few of the problems, and that way I could see it. Do check your work on the keys, okay? Remember, the keys are in the helper docs. Okay, so right here at the top, there's these helper docs and there's the keys. So go back and check your work on the keys. Okay, and then there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before I let you go, and that's emotional intelligence. Okay, so this absolute value is really important to me and I love it, but let's talk about the human side of things. So I found this the other day, and it says, if a child can do advanced math, speak 3 languages, or receive top grades, but can't manage their emotions, practice conflict resolution, or handle stress, none of that other stuff is really going to matter. You could be extremely smart or skilled or talented, but if you can't handle your emotions, then you're not going to be able to apply that in life. And it's worth realizing that emotional intelligence is really, really important. And it's not just in dealing with jobs, it's dealing with marriages, dealing with friendships. It's you know, anytime you deal with people. Okay, so what is emotional intelligence? It's being aware of how your emotions affect you, or being aware of how other people's emotions are affecting things, you know. And then can you deal with that? You know, sometimes you need to say no. Can you say no when you really need to? Like, can you set boundaries? Are you able to move on after making a mistake, or does making a mistake really just bother you so much that you can't do it anymore? What if somebody gives you some criticism or feedback? You know, do you have empathy for others? Can you understand what other people's other people feel. My daughter gave me a huge lesson in emotional intelligence the other night. She came down, she sat down beside me, and I was totally not expecting this, mainly because I was yelling at my other daughter, not yelling, but we were having a deep conversation. And she looks up at me and she has this kind of blank stare and she says, I just found out that getting revenge on someone will not make you feel better. And I said, that's true. I knew that. I always forget it, but I knew that. And, when you get revenge on somebody, it doesn't give you any closure. It doesn't give you that sense of justice. It just makes you feel good that you hurt somebody, but it doesn't wrap up those emotions from anything previous. Okay. The only way that you're going to feel better and move on is by forgiving them, allowing yourself, to take the high road. Okay. Now, I'm not saying don't seek revenge. That's a personal decision. You probably shouldn't seek revenge, but, and that's the most extreme case. Sometimes the toughest choices to make are the ones is the right thing to do. And I've had to do this in my life where I say, you know what? I think this person treated me wrong, but I'm gonna have to drop it and move on. It's not worth killing myself over. Or what if, you don't get sleep at night? Like for me, I don't get a lot of sleep at night right now because I wake up early and now I'm staying up late for classes and dealing with some home health stuff. And when I talk to people, am I aware that my lack of sleep is going to affect how I talk to other people? It affects the words I use. It affects the emotions I feel. I need to make sure I take extra time because my brain is in a different state. Or what if, you're talking with a friend and your friend is really hungry. They haven't eaten all day. Is your friend really going to be in their normal mindset? Okay. So think about emotional intelligence. And there are a couple different tests you can do online to measure your emotional intelligence. But if you want to do well at jobs, if you want to do well in life, you should work to build up your emotional intelligence and be aware of how stress and food and sleep and emotions affect the way that you think and affect the words that you use and affect your feelings. Okay. Hopefully that gets an amen. I think, maybe you guys can disagree, but hopefully you guys think, what if you lack every kind of emotional intelligence though? That's true. There are some people that do. And usually it's from trauma. Like, and this is, my experience is dealing with kids with trauma. Or like, it doesn't have to be kids that are just beat, but it could be like parents are working full time, 80 hours a week, and they're just never there. And you're not raised by your parents. I mean, that's neglect in a way. Your emotional intelligence comes from your home life and your upbringing. I think I'm not going to say I know for sure. That's from what I do know. I can piece that together. That's not science. Science is using data. You can do things. I do think that education can help you. Like your education, I've heard a great story about different research on different brain states. Like you have a hot brain and a cold brain. If somebody comes up to you and they say something that rubs you the right way, oh, I don't know anything about anybody's past. I don't know anything. You can tell me your past, I'll listen, but I don't know. I'm just, I'm sorry if I called anybody out.
Mr. Brooks,
Hey,
is it okay for me to leave?
yeah, we're done with the math content. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, all right, bye. Yeah, I definitely think it's worth taking your time to learn. Oh, the hot state brain, hot brain, cold brain. So imagine like this is just what the story was talking about. It was about how women deal with sexual assault. A lot of women are sexually harassed in the workplace, or not, probably not sexual assault, but sexual harassment. Like, what do you do if your boss says something really awful to you and you're a woman? In your brain, you think like, I can stand up for myself and I can defend myself and I'm going to do this. And usually like they're in such shock, or they're in disbelief about what's happening, that they can't react the way they want to. Or like, have you ever, like, somebody said something to you and then like 2 hours later, you're like, oh man, I wish I said this. Like, you finally think about clearly what you should have done. And that's what happens when we're in stressful situations, we choke. And that's not just sexual harassment. That's like, sports. That's like job interviews. That's like, tests. That's on everything, math tests. Stressed out, your brain stops working. There's one organization that has done wonders in getting people to think better with a hot brain, or cool the brain. And that's the US military. The US military, when you go through training, they deprive you of sleep, and they deprive you of food, and they make you practice making good decisions. And that's really what it is. I mean, they practice making decisions when they're tired, when they're stressed, when they're under pressure, when they're hungry. And that practice is really what how to get it more emotionally intelligent, and to learn about, like, do you know what happens when you're hungry? Do you know the person you are when you don't get sleep? And so, experience is big. Okay, well, that's my little soapbox. I hope that you guys take something away from that. Make sure that you got, I need to see the following people. I need to see Morgan Salyers, Asa, Kyle, Brooklyn Heichman, I think it's Brooklyn Morris, Miss Morris, Pendleton, and Zach Pine. Cameron Pendleton, Zach Pine. I need to see you guys for just a second. I am going to stop the recording, and